everyone, and welcome to Kyndryl's LinkedIn Live event on the topic, Is Your Enterprise AI Ready? Strategies to Scale, Adapt, and Thrive in 2026. I'm Maria Winans, Kyndryl's Chief Marketing Officer, and I am thrilled to kick off the new year with a conversation that really matters for enterprise leaders. We all know AI is transforming every industry, but readiness is what determines who thrives and who will struggle to keep up. Today, we'll unpack insights from the Kyndryl Readiness Report, a deep dive into how enterprises are preparing for uncertainty and scaling innovation under pressure. We'll explore why readiness is the new competitive advantage, how to scale AI pilots without losing agility, a practical guidance for navigating disruption and with confidence. And we'll leave time at the end for your questions. So drop them in the comments anytime throughout this session. So joining me today are two incredible leaders, Kim Basil, our Kyndryl Chief Information Officer, and Dr. Nadia, one who has the most beautiful last name on the planet and knows exactly how it should be said. So Nadia will do the honors in a moment. She is a globally recognized reinvention expert and a recent contributor to the Kyndryl Institute. So Nadia and Kim, welcome. If I could ask you to please introduce yourself, and Nadia, I'd like to start with you.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm Dr. Nadia Zhuksimbayeva. I work in the field of reinvention, helping organizations thrive in this new world of perpetual disruption. And I'm very happy to be here with you.
Thank you. And Kim?
Thanks, Maria, and welcome to everyone that's joining us. I am Kim Basil. As Maria said, I'm Kyndryl's CIO. My primary focus is truly helping Kyndryl both internal and externally, right? Our enterprise customers, helping them modernize and scale our technology. So very excited to be here. Dr. Nadia, I am a huge fan of yours, so I'm super excited for us to talk today.
Yeah, we're excited we've been waiting to do this live broadcast and super excited to have both of you here. So without further ado, let's get started. And I'd like to start with, our Kyndryl Readiness Report combines insights from thousands of leaders across 21 countries and exclusive data from Kyndryl Bridge. And Kyndryl Bridge is our AI-powered open integration platform. And what it revealed is that AI and geopolitical uncertainty are completely upending businesses and tech conventions. So we're going to explore that. But in the report, we found that while 87% of executives think AI will completely transform roles and responsibility in their organizations this year, yet only 31% feel they're ready across, external risks. I mean, based on everything that's going on externally. So 31% feel they're ready. So Kim, when we hear that statistic, and when you talk to our own business stakeholders at Kyndryl and our customers, what does being ready really look like in practice?
Yeah, so you think about being ready, right? The first is understanding and acknowledging how complex the environment is. And then what do you do with that information and how do you process it? So what we have seen is organizations that excel in this space, we call them AI pace setters, because they really do more than just deploy technology, right? They're orchestrating it across people, process, and the technology. These leaders are very decisive in taking action. They integrate AI in everything that they do, right? It's not just a one-off, it's not a pilot, it's in everything that they do. It becomes part of the DNA. It's managed and led with robust governance, change management, clear accountability, and then just it's tied to the strategy. So when you think about it, right, we know AI is a disruptor and it's going to expose gaps. It's going to expose organizations that aren't ready to adopt it, maturity levels and all that. And so really, as you said, Maria, what we've seen in the readiness report is that 90% of the leaders think their IT structure is best in class, yet there's only 39% that actually think it's ready for future risks and disruption. So there's a little bit of a disconnect there. So then what does it mean when we say, how do you get ready? What do you do? First, you have to get alignment, right? It has to be embedded in the business strategy. It cannot be a technology strategy. It's got to really focus on the business outcomes and be part of how the business wants to move and run their organization. The next is governance and trust. You've got to govern it, right? It's something absolutely, there needs to be guardrails. There needs to be ethical evaluations. There's the quality of the data. And then there's just the trust, both internal and externally, that you're using that data in a proper way. And then I think the last is just foundational modernization, right? 64% of leaders have said they feel more pressure to prove AI investments, yet 57 don't think their tech stack is ready. So again, we've got some conflicting emotions and connections associated with this. I think what I would say at the end is, just to wrap up, the most important is they've got to measure the outcomes by what matters to the business, right? It's business outcomes that really have to drive, and it's the people that need to drive it. It's not the technology. It is the people that have to drive it forward.
Yeah. So Kim, when I hear you, I hear alignment, trust, and the foundational modernization that really defines readiness, and of course the people. But we also know that many organizations tell us that they're stuck in pilot purgatory. In fact, the readiness report tells us that 57% of executives say their innovation efforts stall after proof of concept phase. So 57% stall, that say it stalls after proof of concepts. And then related to this, also part of the readiness report, only 29% of executives feel that their organizations are ready to leverage AI in the workplace. So with this in mind, let's talk about moving from pilots to how do we scale in a way that really benefits our workforce without losing that agility. So Nadia, I want to go to you on this questions. And first of all, thank you for your recent contribution to the Kyndryl Institute. Very thoughtful article, you provided and you led there, and in it you discussed customer experience. And then you argue that it's not personalized, it's personal. Mm-hmm. And it's this notion of shifting from one-to-one segmentation to this human-centered adaptive experience. And so when I think about that mindset, it fits perfectly when leaders, say their move to AI is from pilots to scale. So I'd love for you to take a little bit of time to really give us your advice on how to avoid this pilot purgatory trap, as I would say, this trap, while keeping the speed and the adaptability.
Love that question. So first of all, if you're one of the leaders or mid-managers or even youngsters who are feeling like transformation is not happening or AI slogans are not matching your lived reality inside the company, you're not alone. You're absolutely normal. In last many years, so it's well over a decade, almost every statistic shows that big transformations, whether we're talking AI or before that we were talking about digital or COVID response or any other disruption, technological, social, consumer, generational, Gen Z, most transformations do not deliver results for quite significant period of time. And report after report, somewhere between 70 and 80% of all efforts to transform do not deliver P&L results. So if you're seeing a little bit of the stall situation where it's not really going outside of few quick win pilots, you are not abnormality and you're not failing, you're normal. Why is this happening? Number one, we are overwhelmed with the amount of change we're dealing with. Recently, Harvard Business Review reported that in just 5 years, an average number of planned enterprise changes that employees experience went from 2 planned changes a year to 10 planned changes a year. 10 planned changes a year is 1 planned change a month. And I am crazy. I am old enough to remember when we had 1 plan change in 5 years with a big binder and a big brouhaha with announcements and the rollouts. Now we're doing it every few weeks. Right? So first we need to understand the plate is already full for our employees. So when they're stalling, they're not being dishonest or lazy or whatever. They are overwhelmed. And the first thing we recommend and work with every company is clean the slate first. which means regular organizational detox. Many of our students and clients create a quarterly detox where they kill projects that no longer show promise, products that are no longer performing, processes that are clearly not optimal for where we are right now. And it's not once in 5 years, it's once a quarter. So number one reason we're stalling, we're overwhelmed, and we need to do a kill session on a regular basis. Second thing is the personal story. So I learned this trick well over 20 years ago when we were working with sustainability. And the first risks around sustainability, when the market would start downgrading your stock because you were not performing on sustainability agenda, happened already in 2004, 2005, but nobody wanted to deal with it internally. So what we learned is that when you make a new strategic move personal to each employee, it becomes a much easier ride. And what do I mean by that? If I teach AI to my team, and instead of showing the capability on a disconnected KPI or faraway technological example or hypothetical case, most employees are already overwhelmed. They're half present at that training anyways. But if I teach AI, helping you structure your dinners, helping you achieve your health goals, showing you the AI capabilities on how to talk to your teenager differently, showing your AI capabilities, all the AI capabilities in every different tool on how to respond to a difficult customer email or structure a meeting in a more efficient way that makes my life, not abstract, but my specific reality easier, then the efficiencies I'm gaining become the motivation to push forward. So number one, take things off the plate. Number two, show immediate, deeply personal benefits. And third, make it systemic. This cannot be a one-off thing. So everything that we already beautifully heard on Kim's point of view, that this cannot be a bolt-on situation. It must be deeply embedded across function and align with your strategy. Make it at scale, which means don't jump into the pool if there is no strategic relevance for you. I will give you a very simple example. We're a tiny organization. Reinvention Academy is small. And we had to discuss, are we going to embed AI on the teaching side? Meaning, are we going to make Nadia's digital twin? And are we making other faculty digital twin? And there are no right or wrong option. Both are good. They're some organizations, I've been to universities where digital twins of all professors are already on the wall, and some say this is not our path. But make that choice at a systemic level, then it can scale. If you're making it in a one-off, there's no opportunity to scale.
I love that. Oh, yeah, go ahead, Kim. Kim, go ahead.
Yeah. You are spot on. What we've done here at Kyndryl and what we've talked to customers is you almost need to bring AI in at a persona level. Mm-hmm. It's not a one size fits all, right? Mm-hmm. And to your point, that's how people make it personal. So we do talk about how do you get personal productivity? What are the right tools to help you get there? Then what are you doing when you want to get business productivity? And then what do you want to do when you get enterprise productivity? So I agree with you 100%. It's in order for people to really embrace it, they have to feel like it's adding value to what they're doing, and that they feel part of the journey and that they're not drug along the journey. That's the difference. The adoption will make a huge difference if you make it personal. Mm-hmm. And you're right. Most people that are coming into the workforce have a different experience of how they're using these tools currently in their personal life versus how they're using it in their professional life. And you got to bridge that gap. That's where governance comes in, right? You can't have a free for all, but you have to be able to make that experience, tighten that gap a little bit better. So 100% agree with you on that.
Yeah, no, and I was going to add also, Nadia, I read in your article on the Institute, and you were very deliberate about that specific point. You talked about practical next steps, and then you talked about start small and the personal kind of element of it. That really connected with me, because as I think about kind of in our marketing teams, even myself, the overwhelm factor is just, it's just coming at us in every direction. So that personal benefit And then I want to now lean in a little bit more into this thought of the systemic kind of motion, because you introduced a very important shift here, which is this notion of scaling as a living system. Scaling as a living system. And that's a perfect lead in to kind of my next question that I'm going to pose to you, that points to what leaders are doing and how they're navigating this disruption with confidence. And this leans into an article that I recently read from Forbes, with you saying something very powerful, that disruption isn't just an interruption anymore. It becomes this system itself. And actually, you said your word for 2026 is meta-eruption. And which perfectly captures this moment in this discussion. So I'd love for you to talk a little bit more about meta-eruption and what it means and explain it here to the group.
So first, a little bit of statistics. Most of 20th century, a typical business model could last us for about 75 years. Different research between 62 and 75. Meaning I can milk the same essential business system for decades to come with nothing but tiny operational improvements. That era is when disruption was rare. We had one disruption in maybe 10, 20 years. We used to call them black swans. Remember that beautiful
Yep.
We used to call them this completely unexpected, unimaginable events. Now, disruption comes in flocks. Black swans come together as a big flock. They lay eggs, they make babies, they make babies of making babies. This is essentially what meta-eruption is. Meta-eruption is an incredible term coined by futurist Roger Spitz last year. Meta-eruption is a multi-dimensional family of systemic disruption. What does it mean? AI. Typical meta-eruption, because the moment AI as a technological breakthrough comes in, it immediately has multiple circles on the water. It has regulatory circles. It has environmental. We're already discussing the energy strains that AI is putting on cities for the data centers that are now taking the energy. So there's energy questions and environmental outputs. It's societal shifts, our children behaving differently, our learning patterns, our brain structures, health implications, and I can keep going and going. We haven't even mentioned business, right? I haven't even mentioned competitiveness or employee engagement or social implications of the massive shift in what jobs we do and what it means to have a job and how much hours do you spend doing anything. So that's what meta-eruption is. What I think most companies still don't understand is they still think this is a temporary event. And I'm sure you've seen this. Walk into a strategy session and somebody says, when things normalize, when things go back to normal, when we go back to business as usual. This is the phrase I've been hearing since 2008 recession. We are almost 20 years later and we're still pretending any moment now, any moment.
Right.
Just wait, any moment now.
Yeah.
And there is no scientific evidence that anything is going to slow down. If anything, 2026 will be the slowest year of our lifetime. The slowest. Which means if this is the new operating reality, we have to shift our toolkits and we have to shift our systems. Because if I was to show you a slide of the World Economic, International Monetary Fund's Uncertainty Index, their last 60 plus years since 1959, and zoom in between 70s and late 90s, you will immediately see that almost everything we use in strategy, operations, supply chain management, HR, marketing, and beyond was invented in the era of lowest volatility. It worked beautifully. Traditional strategy worked beautifully and was a brilliant breakthrough when things were low disruption, low volatility in terms of our environment and competitive reality. But today, the same tools, the same theories, the same things we teach in business schools are killing our business because companies don't understand. This is not a one-off event we wait out or we knee-jerk react to. No, you cannot knee-jerk enough. And next one is coming, and the next one is coming, which means your strategic planning must become agile. Your budgeting needs to become dynamic. Your technological thinking needs to go as far as you can from monolith to modular, flexible, adaptive, because you might be building a behemoth that will never be used because in 2 years it will be disrupted and all of that technology is irrelevant. We do that even in manufacturing. I have a long-lasting career in mining. I was a mining executive for 3 years and stay as a fractional for now 13 years. And in mining, we're building mining sites modular, understanding that we might need it today and might not need it tomorrow. So even if you can do it, imagine if you can do it in a very conservative industry, you definitely can do it in almost any other industry. Flexibility as a systemic solution, and all of our tools need to be rethought. That's what meta-eruption means. This is the normal operating condition. The disruptions will come in big flocks. They will all influence each other. Therefore, we must rethink the entirety of our operating system, making reinvention the strategy that continuously renews your organization.
Yeah, you talk about the operating system, and actually when I was reading your Forbes article, you said something, it's the operating system that determines who stays relevant and who quietly exits the game.
And
That's
here's
powerful.
a statistic for you on the quietly exiting the game. Since 2000, just 25 years, 52% of Fortune 500 companies fell off the list. If you are still in business today since 2000, you are a minority. So this is not a theoretical exercise. Either you learn how to beat a different drum and have a cadence of renewal, or you will quietly exit the game and no one even notices. That's the sad part. It's just the norm.
Just the norm. Now, Kim, I don't know if there's anything you want to add here from a Kyndryl perspective. I know that this has also been what we've been experiencing here.
We have. And spot on with that, Dr. Nadia. I think what we've seen is that in order to earn that edge in the real world, right, we do need to constantly be able to evolve. It can't be a mobilize and then evolve. It's got to be constant and cyclical. Now, the challenge you have is you have a few things. You have to think about your foundation and modernizing it. You've got to clarify the ownership, and you've got to build cross-functional rhythms so that everyone really understands. But I think what I would highlight, the most important thing that you're hitting on is that there is no more time for us to thoughtfully think, plan, design, execute. It has to happen all at once. And so we are asking employees and leaders to come with a different mindset. And we say this in Kyndryl, we need to allow people to fail fast because they're going to. And in order to do that, then they can learn and quickly fix what they need to. It's a very different time. The speed at which this is coming, you're right. If you don't keep up with it, you are going to get left behind. And our responsibility as leaders is to make sure that not only our employees, but our clients are able to feel safe while they're doing that and understand how we can help them.
Yeah, no, that's so true. And there's something, Dr. Nadia, I'm going to go back to you because I'm just going to build on what Kim just said from a leadership perspective. You actually talk about you give 3 points on what leaders must unlearn. I'd love for you to kind of share that perspective also as well here.
And of course, there are many more than 3, but what is crucial is where do we start? So the first place we start is to recognize that we need to stop mixing clarity with certainty. Clarity is not certainty. Clarity is saying, here's 5 things we have no clue about, and we are honest about it. Here are 5 disruptions or 5 directions. Maybe it's regulatory. We don't know how this law will pan out. Maybe it's tariffs. Maybe it's a particular competitive reality. Will this competitor move left or right? We do not pretend we don't know. We know every answer. We clearly state, this is what we know. This is what we absolutely do not know, and we cannot pretend that we know. And here are the pool of hypotheses. There's a pool of experiments that Kim was just talking about that we are ready to test out in a fail-fast fashion. That this is based on known and unknown. These are the few things we're testing for the next strategic sprint. And that is the difference between clarity and certainty. Certainty is standing in front of your people and pretending that you know exactly what to do. Clarity is, I don't know the answer, but I know how to figure it out. And here's 5 strategies we're going to use to quickly test out which of our potential answers is the right fit. And that is a kind of honesty that every employee can sense when you are being very, very clear without faking certainty. Because if you are an intelligent professional today, you all know nobody knows what's going to happen. Not a quantum computer in the world now can calculate the probability, because the interactions of complex disruptions are just too big in magnitude to calculate every possible scenario. So in that sense, number one, clarity is not certainty. Number two, we need, and Kim just mentioned that, cross-functional cadence and the relationship between different functions. The 3 most important that are usually fighting is strategy, innovation, and change. Strategy, and forgive me, I will grossly exaggerate. If it's not your company reality, you are an exception. But usually, strategy don't want to deal with the mushy-mushy change management people or those weird agile scrum people. Innovation people want to live in their own bubble. Please don't touch us. We want to be free from the limits of existing business model. The beautiful agile scrum people don't want to exactly be connected to the finance side of the business model. Most of the time, they love the methodology, but thinking at the big level of a business model is not always their cup of tea. Change management people living in their bubble. These camps have to become biggest partners with a baton passing to each other in a seamless cadence that is like a production line. We have a forecast anticipating change. We come up with a pool of experiments, designing change. We deploy it, implementing change. We learn quickly. We start a new cycle, and it's again and again and again. And finally, so number one, don't mix clarity with certainty. Number two, organizations must stop treating strategy, innovation, and execution as separate domains. And number three, we cannot treat exhaustion and burnout as just a collateral damage. It's just the way the things are. This is a marathon. Interruption is not going away, which means there will be no break. And just like a marathon, that means you need to fuel yourself. You need to have healthy bodies. You need to have healthy mental state. You need to have healthy practices, because it's not like it's going to be over in 2 months. So just buckle up. No, it won't. And we need to have this natural human capacity to keep up with this pace.
So buckle up, a marathon. I love that. I love that. So what I heard, continuous reinvention and operational readiness as a daily habit. So, and not a one-off initiative. I think that's, that was very clear. So now I know we're going to open it up for questions, but we also want to take a poll here, and we want to kind of see what you're thinking, based on this conversation today. So what is, I think the question here is, in the poll, is what is your biggest challenge in scaling AI across your enterprise? So I think some of you have already been putting in the responses in the chat. Option 1, lack of a clear strategy. Option 2, governance and risk concerns. Number 3, option 3 is cultural resistance. And then option 4, technical complexity. So let's see what we're seeing here in the poll. So, wow, lots of votes here. Looking forward to seeing where we land at the end of the stream. So should we think about it at the end? We'll take a look at the end of where we land. So, continuously just kind of put it in the chat. And again, option 1, option 2, option 3. And all right. All right. So let's, while folks are commenting and adding to the chat, I know we've covered a lot here, but now it's your turn. And what we want to do is we want to open it up to a couple of questions to get started. And don't forget, again, you can continue to comment on the poll or enter your questions, and we'll direct them to Kim and Dr. Nadia. Kim, I want to start with you. And again, it builds a little bit on what we've been talking about in the last question. How are you getting Kyndryl employees ready for the AI era? I know it's been a journey for us, but how are you thinking about it as we are deploying across our employees?
Yep. Thanks, Maria. I think there's a couple of things that we're doing, and Dr. Nadia, I'll add on to where you were talking as well. I think we've got 79% of leaders that believe AI agents is going to empower employees, and that is how we present it here at Kyndryl, right? We want them to use it to empower them so that they start focusing on more strategic items. They allow it to eliminate the more mundane and automated tasks. But I think there's a couple things. We encourage employees here and drive it. Look east and west. That's that process focus that we're talking about. So you're going to have to get out of your silos and you're going to have to look east and west. That's the most important thing. I think there's a couple other things that we do here that we've also done with our clients as well, where we lead by example. So what we are encouraging every employee today is to make sure they're using AI as part of their everyday environment, whether it's small, medium, or large. Use it, become comfortable with it. When you're getting in front of clients, then we're bringing people in front of clients that are using it every day. So they're not trying to learn it before they walk in a door. We're teaching it here. It is absolutely, and I went back to earlier, it's at a persona level. So we've done things where we've created training courses very specific to the job role. So our administrative assistants, they get a very specific training than what our customer partners get. There's the basic, but then we start tailoring it so that every single person in this firm is understanding how they infuse it into their day-to-day. The other thing that we do is, so if you look at it, think of it as like a multi-lane highway, right? The first is there's upskilling that's happening. Now, there is training that you can take online, but then there is really encouraging that and making sure that people are getting creative with how they can use it in their day-to-day, sharing what we'll call those win stories across the organization. Then you bringing in domain expertise and how is that going to expand and take those individual productivities when I talked about the three major personas. So how do I take someone that's really learned how to mature and use AI much more in a way than just writing email or summarizing their calendar, but really creating agents to get more efficient? How do they take that and put that in their what to do from a code perspective, or how they are managing infrastructure? How do you keep taking it to the next level? And then the most important thing I think we do is what we found here is you've got a workforce of early career professionals that absolutely use it. They're AI native. They fundamentally in everything that they do. That is a benefit for us here. That we want them to come and bring those ideas. What I notice is when we pair them up, we call this an apprentice program. When we pair them up with your traditional infrastructure specialist or expert, that individual understands the guardrails. They understand where the risks are. They understand the business process. You need that. But when you pair up that energy around using AI tools, whether it be open source or something that's coming from a strategic platform, and that expertise that's brought to the table from that seasoned individual, that is a powerful combination that comes together. That's where you start seeing this east and west happen, teams working together, thinking across the board. And then OCM, to your point, Dr. Nadia, is not something you layer on top. It's happening real time, right? So what you see is everyone's day-to-day, they're doing OCM in that because they are thinking about how they want to change what they're doing and thinking in the organization. And so I will tell you as a IT leader, it's a wonderful time to watch. It's overwhelming, don't get me wrong. And I think, as clients try to look at their complex environment, where do they start? But I think you can start with just thinking about how the average person can use it and build on that. And we can bring that to the table. So we really do strive internally to say, you've got to lead by example. My CIO organization is an example. That's the group that's got to lead by example so that everyone in the firm, but everyone can use these tools. And again, the strategy isn't AI, it's the business strategy and how AI is going to enable it. And that's really the most important part that I think we want people to get to.
That's great. I love your last comment, Kim. The strategy isn't AI, it's the business strategy that is supported by AI. Nadia, Dr. Nadia, anything to add on this one before we go to the next question or any?
I have a very quick illustration of
Okay,
a lot
I figured you did. Yeah.
about it. So all of you remember about 10, 15 years ago, maybe even more, when ERP, enterprise resource planning systems, were implemented in many companies around the world. So around 2015, I'm working with a company that is massively investing in ERP. And it's not going well. Millions of dollars sank in, and no end in sight, and no productivity is happening. And this is the story of most technological implementations. When we latch on the wrong thing, and the technology enables us to see gaps in our processes. So I'm walking in the hall of this company and hear a massive screaming in the conference room. And as I walk in, I see a CFO, regional CFO on one side, and the head of ERP implementation and his team on another side. And they're already standing up. If there was no conference table between them, they would physically be in a fist fight, and then we would be in video talk. So I'm like, okay, what's going on? As a facilitator in transformation, as a reinvention professional, what's happening? The CFO is screaming that a particular form is not being automated. And now 2,000 people throughout the whole company every month calculate this form to submit it to the headquarters. I asked the ERP guy, why are you not automating it? Now it would be AI guy. Why are you not automating it? An agent should calculate it. The guy says it would be expensive scope. We would be delayed in weeks. It was out of scope, blah, blah, blah. I go back to the guy. What's the value of the form? What's the value? Can we automate it a different way? Can we deliver the value a different way? What's this form for? We don't know. It's for headquarters. Every month we must submit the form. I said, have you called the CFO of the group? Let's call him now. Hi, why are you using this form? This form was required for regulatory compliance, and that law has changed, and we have not used this form for the last 2 years. Every month, 2,000 people are producing a form. Nobody knows for what. Nobody knows who is a customer of that form and what's the business value of that form. So when we're talking about strategy, there's enterprise level strategy, but there's also East and West, your department strategy. You have customers inside your company, and those customers are internal, another department, another division for whom you're either producing reports or creating something. Those customers have either value delivered to them, or you are just moving chairs on the Titanic. And AI is a beautiful way to highlight where are we having forms produced by thousands of people with zero value add. And that's where AI takes off, when it becomes the mechanism of cleaning the organizational debris that no longer produces value, so that we can become more competitive, lighter on our feet, and ready for the next opportunity.
That's a great example. So let's, I just want to get to some of the other questions. So Kim, actually, this one's for you. I'm going to go, this question came in the chat on how is Kyndryl, so when you talked about kind of our experience internally, but when we think about how we're helping organizations, our customers, understand how to implement and use AI to improve their day-to-day functions, what are we doing from a Kyndryl perspective to support our customers?
So So as you've probably seen, we've announced the Kyndryl agentic framework. And really what that does, exactly what you were saying, Dr. Nadia, is we don't jump into here's the technology you implement. We sit down and understand, what problem are you trying to solve? Talk through it, really understand the value proposition of it. And then I go back to, again, the tools are an enabler. And so the framework, what we have today, really focuses on what is your business process? What's your problem? Where's that pain point? And then how do we figure out what it should look? What does good look like? And we use ourselves all the time, right? So the majority of activities that clients are having challenges with, we are, right? I'm a CIO, we're talking to CIOs. I've got the same challenges they've gotten. So what we try to do is look at inwardly, and then how do we bring that outwardly and help them? But what the framework does is allow you to really lay out what is that process, and then where are the tools that will enable you to kind of facilitate that process without ripping out and adding in big complex tools. There's enough tools, as we all know, in the marketplace that can allow us to really facilitate that change of a business process. And so that's one of the most important things, is we're bringing to the table really not only what we're doing, what we call our customer zero story. So everything that I do in CIO, someone's sitting down with another CIO, I've got the same challenges. How did I solve it internally? I didn't go off and buy an enormous amount of tools. I really tried to figure out, how do I leverage? Because you're right, there's a financial constraint that everyone's dealing with. There is an investment that is certainly needed, but the investment is the people too. So once you invest in the people and the people start really thinking about how it can make their lives easier, you're going to generate a spark that is going to get AI moving and really get them thinking about that business process. So that's a lot of the things that I think is most important. Is we are focused on the business process, but it's one that we're trying to solve internally as well, and we're bringing it to the table.
Yeah, no, and I think one of a powerful story for us has been, Kim, is the customer zero, right? Whether it was in our back office transformation and now in what we're doing to deploy AI ourselves. I know that for us, thinking of a CMO and marketing, that's exactly, kind of what I'm living every day with the organization is, how do we agenticize processes and look at opportunities, for us to work, more effectively and efficiently with AI.
West, Maria, right? I mean, that really is the most powerful thing,
yes.
Right? It's no more, I'm in the East, I'm in the North. You have to look across. You can't do it independently.
No, I depend a lot on you, and then our friends and.
That's okay.
So, Dr. Nadia, this question came in, and it builds. I love the comment that you made around clarity and certainty. And so the question is like this: can clarity and certainty be obtained, or are they euphemisms for perfection? So, interesting question.
It's a philosophical question.
Yeah, a little bit.
We can speak about definition of perfection in very different terms.
Yeah.
In human terms, ever since Descartes introduced the idea that organizations are machines, we think of perfection as this neatly blocked out kegs. Everyone is a little bolt in their place and everything can be controlled. If you look at perfection the way forest builds itself, with things dying and things growing simultaneously, with leaves of the last season becoming the soil of the next, no tree sits at the end of the season holding to its leaves and says, I'm not letting go. I spent the whole year producing these leaves. But businesses do that on a regular basis. They hold on to products that are long overdue to be let go because we have an idea that is not organic in nature, that is not sustainable. The most thriving systems in the world are biological systems. In this sense, biomimicry has a lot to teach us. Mimic nature in a way it creates both resilience and adaptability with incredible flexibility. So how do you have discipline and flexibility at the same time? Look at the tree that is bending to the wind. It's both very resilient, but also very, very adaptive. That's where we are. Perfection for me is not having everything in neat quadrants. In meta-eruption world, nothing will be perfectly clean anymore. We will have multiple disruptions, which means multiple changes will be happening in our companies simultaneously. We'll have unfinished business nonstop. We will never have a clean house unless our house is very, very tiny. That's the only way you can control. But if you want to do big things in this world, you need to accept that your house will not be clean. It will have pieces of starting new businesses, pieces of mature businesses, pieces of declining businesses that we will wind down. And all of it is organic perfection for me, because I believe that organic way, a more flexible or more living way, a living system rather than a controlled machine, is a much more resilient metaphor for business in 2026 and beyond.
I love that. Organic perfection. I love that. Well, thank you, Dr. Nadia. I know that question was a little bit philosophical, but you answered it beautifully on just kind of continuum, the organic perfection notion. Now I want to go back to the poll real quick. And see what people, chose here on, what's their biggest challenge in scaling AI across enterprises. And the two that kind of were most, I don't know if we're going to show it here, was around, of no surprise, governance and risk concerns. And this aligns also to what we saw in the readiness report, that 31% say this is a barrier, for AI, deployment of AI, and challenge around AI, in scaling in an organization, governance and risk concerns. The second one, would you guess what the second one is, Kim and Dr. Nadia? What do you? We don't have the results here. What do you think?
I'm sure it's not technical complexity, so it's either culture or strategy, and it depends on the company.
I was thinking culture.
Yep, culture. Yep, culture resistance. And again, I kind of what we saw in the readiness report. 22% are resistance to organizational changes, employees, and I think we've talked a lot about OCM. I want to, I think we have time. Another question that came in the chat, and I'm going to throw it to both you, Kim, and Dr. Nadia, is leadership. And again, it focuses on, leaders during this era of AI. Leadership is extremely important in this time. How are you preparing leadership to become advocates? How are you preparing leadership to become advocates?
Well, let me start, and then I'll pass it on to Kim. I will mention one thing that is on leaders' shoulders today, out of many, many things that we're working on. But this is an incredibly nuanced, and I might lose you. I nerd out on things occasionally. So I might lose you, dear audience, if I go on a nerdy tangent, forgive me. But one of the most important things that I'm seeing is where leaders have to do proactive work is around psychological contract. What is a psychological contract? It's unspoken agreement between us leaders and the employees in our companies. And the unspoken agreement specifically around large-scale change, which AI is, has been, as I mentioned before, for decades. The unspoken agreement has been, you change for me, and I'll leave you alone for a few years. You employee change for me, and then you're off the hook for a few years. That promise was completely distant in the 90s, even early 2000s. Ever since the last economic recession, and definitely in the last 10 years, this is a promise we as leaders cannot deliver on. But we never explicitly, in 99% of companies I've been to, recontracted. We never came in and said and had proactive programming in our company, however you want to design it, that says, hey guys, we could deliver on this promise 20 years ago because of this types of trends and realities in which we operate. In this very different reality, I cannot give you that promise, because by the end of this week, I most likely will have to pile on a new disruption on your head and on mine without any of my choice. One talk of a political leader, one comment of a technological CIO, one a new report, one disruption somewhere in another part of the world, and all of my plans go up in smoke, and I need to rethink the agenda for just the coming week. So I cannot promise you that I will back off. We need to go from change is rare to change is constant, rewrite the book, and together recontract how we're going to live in the world in which change is rare is not coming back. That means starting with very simple things. We cannot promise endless careers and jobs anymore. And the time we start speaking that way, everyone can smell this is false, and the overall trust in the leader goes down. But there is no industry today that can say we have guaranteed employment for life. What we can guarantee, if we are leaders we want to be, is that you will leave this company stronger than when you entered. You will have more options. You will know more. You will have skills that will make you competitive. But we cannot make promises that are undeliverable, because with every one of that promise, we are eroding trust. And with that comes immediately productivity. And here I will give one more statistic for you. Gallup measures the world engagement, the workforce engagement worldwide every year. And this is the latest data, the lowest level of engagement we've seen in 10 or 12 years. This is September 25 to only 21% of employees are engaged. 62 are quiet quitting, so they're coming to work just for a paycheck and they tend to do bare minimum. But here's the staggering statistic. 17% of the worldwide workforce allowed quitting. This is what we call a soft way to say sabotaging. They're not stupid. They're not unethical. They're some of the brightest employees in our teams. But for them, the act of sabotaging their boss, their leader, their company is an act of justice, because you're violating a contract that has never been rewritten. So it's a very nerdy way to go around it. But essentially, we need to realign around what the world looks like today. How can we win in that world, rather than hoping that the world will survive tomorrow? Just to quote Canadian Prime Minister, who delivered a speech 2 days ago, and if you haven't heard that speech, it's not a geopolitical speech only, it's a personal leadership speech. The best quote on that matter: nostalgia is not a strategy. Nostalgia is not a strategy. Being nostalgic about the way business was 10, 15, 20 years ago is not serving anyone. It's destroying our sense of hope, our employees' sense of hope, and the productivity as a whole.
Yeah. Kim, go ahead. Yeah, no, I'm just.
I think that I would add, what I found we need to do is give space. Leaders need space, because they're learning as fast as their employees are. When you think of the traditional leadership, you worked your way up your career. So maybe you started as a developer, you started on an assembly line or what have you, and you progressed in your career, and that knowledge that you had is what allowed you to move up. That's not here anymore. Something's come in and completely wiped that out. And so every leader at every level is got to learn something pretty new, not just a business, a technology that's going to change the business. And so what we try to do is make sure we're giving those leaders that space to learn and create that learning mindset that at times isn't going to come from experience in this space right now. Your experience is what's going to help the business process, but the technology piece is the piece that everyone's going to need to understand. And how does that technology enable it? So that's a big one. I will say, when I think of my leadership team, I've got some great leaders that carve out time, that just want to keep up with the technology, because you go to bed, it's something very different the next day. And that's a speed at which is very difficult to figure out, how do I infuse that into everything I'm doing day to day? So space is the word that I would use when I think about how do we help these leaders really get to where they need to get to. They need the space to do it.
I love that, Kim. Space to learn, and in this world of constant change. Well, listen, I have many more questions, and I'm sure that the audience does too. And it's amazing how 1 hour goes by so fast. And really, thank you for joining us. It's been an incredible discussion. We'll include links in the comments so you can follow them on LinkedIn. And for more guidance, I encourage you to download the Kyndryl Readiness Report. And this, explores more around the data and the practices that we discussed today. And also check out the Kyndryl Institute. This is our journal, our report for really bold ideas and expert perspectives. So let's keep the conversation going on LinkedIn. Let's make sure you follow, you're following Kyndryl to register for any upcoming live events. And until next time, stay ready and stay ahead. Thank you.